Start. First of all, what is a digestive system? So what is digestive system? Digestive system is a system that digests your food, right? That digests your food. پشتوارительный система, yoki bo'lmasam hazm qilish sistemasida. So nutrients, we have the macromolecules, we have carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids. They are all what? They are macromolecules. And additional to that, vitamins, minerals, and water, they are also essential to us. Okay, all of these nutrients we get from the food. From the food, we get them. For example, if we get lipids, right? If we get lipids, so from the fast foods, right? If a lot of lipids they contain, our digestive system, it should also digest it. But for the digestion, we need special enzymes. Enzymes, they're the catalyzers of the reaction. They speed up the reactions, right? So we need special enzymes. So for example, for the lipids, we have the lipase, okay, enzyme, which digests the lipids into what? Digest the lipids into fatty acids and the glycerol, okay? So we have the proteins. So proteins are digested with proteases. ACE means enzyme. With proteases, we have two types of the proteases. The first is trypsin, second is pepsin. Okay, they digest the proteins. Amylase, they digest the carbohydrates. The carbs that we eat are digested by amylase, okay? And cellulase, this is an enzyme which digests the cellulose. What's cellulose? It is the cell wall of plants. Cellulose is the cell wall of the plants, okay? So carbohydrates, they are digested into the glucose, but before watching this video, you can watch the topic, our video related to the biomolecules, okay? So carbohydrates, they are digested into the glucose molecules. Carbohydrates, they're polymers, they're digested into monomers, which is glucose. Proteins, they're also polymers, right? They're biomolecules, big molecules with special enzyme, which is called the protease. They digested into smaller monomers, which is called amino acids. Lipids, they digested into monomers, which are fatty acids and glycerol, okay, with special enzyme, which is called the lipase. So this is about the macromolecules. In the body processing digestive system, body needs the amino acids to make the proteins, right? Body needs the amino acids. This is the monomer to make bigger proteins with the, which way? With protein synthesis. Then our body needs the glucose to run the cellular respiration to make ATP. Our body needs fats to make cell membranes, for example, phospholipids and others. And carbohydrates, proteins, fats in the food are broken down also into the monomers, which are glucose, amino acids, and the fats. The process of the eating, we call it ingestion, breaking down, which is digestion, and taking up, which is absorption of the food, is managed by your digestive system always, okay? How your body becomes fuel, how your food becomes the fuel, actually, you take the proteins, you take the carbs in each food. There is an amount of portions of the proteins, carbs, and the fats, right? That protein will be digested into amino acids. Those amino acids then will be used to synthesize the proteins, or we also break down those proteins to make the amino acids. And when the cortisol level, which is hormone, is high from the amino acid, our body makes the new glucose molecule with the process of gluconeogenesis. Okay, gluconeogenesis. And carbohydrates, they're broken down into the glucose. This is for the energy purposes. And when the energy is deficient in our body, the proteins which were synthesized, they also break down into the amino acids. We make the glucose from the amino acids if the lack of the food, with the process called gluconeogenesis. And that glucose will be also used to produce the energy, or extra glucose will be converted in the liver and in the muscles as a glycogen. Okay, glycogen is the polymer of carbohydrates. Okay, a lot of glucose molecules, monomers, will be converted into the polymers, which is glycogen. And then extra glucose can also go into a process which is called the lipogenesis. We can generate from that glucose, extra glucose, the lipids. Okay, glycerol and fatty acids, and we can store it. We will store the fat. If you eat too much glucose, that means you can convert that glucose with a process which is called lipogenesis into fat, okay, later. Good. And from the fat, you can also burn that fat into the glycerol and fatty acids and make the energy. Okay. So this is the overall what your body does with those proteins, carbs, and the fats. Okay, they will be converted to each other. So if you break down the glycogen into the glucose in your liver, in your muscle, this process is called glycogenolysis. It's done with special enzyme, which is called with special hormone, which is called glucagon, which is secreted from the beta cells of your pancreas. We will talk about it a little bit later. Synthesizing the glucose from the amino acids and fats, it's called gluconeogenesis. There is a difference between gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis. Okay. Any questions from here? Okay, alimentary canal all starts from the alimentary canal. Alimentary canal, this is the alimentary canal. This is a long muscular tube that begins in the mouth and ends at the anus. Okay, this is called the alimentary canal. Food enters the mouth first. Okay, food enters the mouth and we swallow the food. This is called bolus of the food. Okay, so food, we swallow the food. Okay, then it enters to the esophagus. This part is called esophagus. It does the peristalsis. Peristalsis is it's a rhythmic contraction of the smooth muscles in the digestive system. Digestive system made of smooth muscles, which does the peristalsis. This is the rhythmic contraction of the smooth muscles, which make your food to move ahead. Okay, not up but ahead to down. Okay, so then from the esophagus, it goes to the stomach. So esophagus brings the food from the mouth to the stomach. This is the function of the esophagus. Okay. And then when the food is inside of the stomach, it goes to the small intestine. This is your small intestine. Okay. And then it goes to the large intestine. This is the large intestine. Then it goes out as a feces. Indigestible material is called the feces, eliminated through the anus outside. And all organs in the alimentary canal perform the peristalsis. Okay, this is the rhythmic contraction of the muscles, peristaltica. Okay, and smooth muscles are located in the hollow organs in your body in the digestive system. Okay, stomach means oshqozon, желудок, esophagus means pishevod. Okay, kızılöngeç. Okay, so small intestine, ingichki check, malaya kishka, large intestine, большая kishka. Okay, толстая kishka, and we have the rectum and anus. That's it. Okay, so except the alimentary canal, we have accessory organs which help the alimentary canal to digest the food. Example to those accessory organs are teeth, your teeth to help to grind the food, okay? And your tongue and teeth help to grind the food and form a bolus, kamachki, okay? And also you have the salivary glands. You have 6 salivary glands, 6 or 3 pairs of the salivary glands, okay? So here you can see the salivary glands. The first is parotid gland, which is located around your ear, 1 pair. In both ears, you have 2 parotid glands, okay? You have submandibular gland, which is below the mandible, челюсть, okay, нижний челюсть. And you have the sublingual gland, which is below the tongue, okay, подъязычные. So you have parotid gland, pair of parotid glands, you have pair of submandibular glands, which produce the saliva. Saliva means sluna. And also you have the pair of sublingual glands, which is located below your tongue, and they also secrete the saliva. Okay, околоушные, подчелюстные и подъязычные. Good. 3 pairs of the salivary glands in your body. They also help salivary glands secrete the saliva, saliva, sluna, which is made of water and mucus. Your saliva made of water and mucus. Mucus means slice. Okay. So pancreas, they secrete both the endocrine and exocrine secretions. This is a function of the pancreas. Okay. They do both. endocrine and exocrine secretions. So what does it mean? Exocrine means going out, endocrine going inside. So it has two functions. They release their secretions outside to the digestive system. This is called exocrine secretion. Endocrine secretion means they are secretions which go to the blood. They are hormones. So pancreas means oshqozon osti bezi, или in Russian it will be
Поджелудочная железа.
поджелудочная железа. Поджелудочная железа. Okay, поджелудочная. Here you have the stomach and here you have the pancreas. Okay, so it has two secretions, exocrine secretions, which exit exocrine secretions. Those secretions it produces and it's released into the small intestine. Okay, and another secretions, they are hormones. Those hormones are going to the blood vessels or to the blood. Okay. So this is the pancreas. As you can see, this is the pancreatic duct. You see the pancreatic duct. Duct means canal. Okay. Here you can see the acinar cells. Those yellowish in color, they are acinar cells. Okay. And here you can see here Langerhans cells. Langerhans cells. Okay, we call it Langerhans. So acinar cells produce the exocrine secretions. What kind of secretions they produce? They produce special digestive enzymes which can break down carbohydrates, which can break down lipids and proteins. Okay, so what kind of secretions? What are the names of these secretions? The first is amylase, is produced in the acinar cells of the pancreas. Okay, amylase is produced and it digests, it breaks down the carbohydrates in the small intestine. Because why in the small intestine? Because all the contents, all the exocrine secretions of the pancreas, they are going to the small intestine, which is after the stomach. Okay, they release it to the small intestine and they digest the carbohydrates. Amylase release it and digest the carbs. Okay, and the lipase, this is the enzyme which break down the lipids. Okay, so they release it also to the small intestine because it is exocrine secretion. It break down the lipids, lipase. ACE means the enzyme. Trypsin, this is the enzyme which is released as an exocrine secretion from the pancreas, from the acinar cells of the pancreas specifically, and their main function is to break down the proteins into amino acids. Lipases break down the lipids into glycerol and fatty acids. Carbohydrates are broken down into glucose or disaccharides. Okay? So this is the exocrine secretion of the pancreas. Exocrine secretions release it into the body cavities. It can be released into the mouth. Okay, for example, salivary glands release the saliva into the mouth. It also does the exocrine secretion. And also stomach releases special enzymes into the stomach cavity. This is also exocrine secretion, which is pepsin, hydrochloric acid, and others we will learn very soon. And also intestines, in the intestines, for example, the pancreas release into the intestines. This is also secretion. Okay. So what about endocrine secretions? You see here the Langerhans cells. These are the Langerhans cells. They're not connected to the tube. They're not connected to the pancreatic duct. They are connected to the blood vessels. Those red are blood vessels. Blood vessel means what? Blood vessel means
Сосуды кровеносные.
сосуды кровеносные. Yes, these are Langerhans cells. You can see two types of the cells inside. You can see alpha cells and you can see beta cells. Okay, so alpha cells, those alpha cells, they produce glucagon. This is the hormone. Okay, glucagon. When the glucagon is released, it's released when you're hungry. Its main job is to convert the glycogen, which is stored in your liver and in your muscles. Okay, glycogen is stored as a polymer in your liver and in your muscles. Glucagon converts the glycogen. Don't confuse the glucagon and glycogen. Glycogen is polymer, glucagon is hormone. This glucagon converts the glycogen into the glucose when you're hungry to make ATP. Okay, and it's produced from alpha cells. From beta cells, pancreas produce the insulin. Okay, insulin is produced when your glucose level is high to decrease the glucose levels in the blood. When the glucose is high, when you're full, when you ate, okay, when you're full, the glucose is high, insulin is released from the beta cells of the pancreas as an endocrine secretion, okay, into the bloodstream. And this glucose, extra glucose, will be converted into the glycogen again in the liver and in the muscles. Okay, and this cycle always repeatedly repeats. That's a cycle. Okay, so this is how your body monitors your glucose levels. Endocrine secretions, they are hormones which go to the into the bloodstream. Okay, and for the accessory organs, we have the liver. So this is the liver, pechin. Okay, liver makes what? Liver makes the bile. Liver makes the bile. Bile means желчь. Okay, so bile. And you have the gallbladder. This is this structure, this greenish structure. This is the gallbladder. All the secretions, all the bile which is secreted from the liver will go to the gallbladder. Will go to the gallbladder. Okay, and it will be stored there until it's necessary. Okay, so again, gallbladder doesn't synthesize the bile. Okay, it only stores, it only keeps until necessary time, but the liver makes the bile itself. Okay, so this portion of the small intestine, the small portion, the beginning portion of the small intestine is called duodenum. Okay, this is duodenum. This is the beginning of the small intestine. 12-перстная кишка in Russian, in Uzbek will be 12 barmoli içek. Okay, duodenum. This is a small intestine which makes a loop. You see, it's making a loop around the head of the pancreas. This is the head of the pancreas. This is the body of the pancreas. This is the tail of the pancreas. Okay, and duodenum is making a loop around the head of the pancreas. Okay, understandable? Any questions?
No.
Okay, good. In the mouth, where it all starts, ingestion of the food starts in the mouth. Teeth and tongue, they are all accessory organs which make a bolus. Okay, teeth and tongue. And the salivary glands, you know, they secrete the saliva which moisten the food and clump it together into the bolus. They make a bolus. Okay, you can see this parotid gland, yeah, submandibular gland and sublingual glands there. Okay, hello. And also they contain the amylase. What was the amylase? This is the enzyme which digests the carbohydrates. And in your saliva, there is an amylase, okay? The function of the amylase to convert the starch polymers into the monomers or disaccharides, okay? Monosaccharides or disaccharides. Here in this case, maltose. You can see starch with the help of special enzyme, which is called amylase, they're converted into the, broken down into the maltose molecules, 4 maltose molecules. So maltose is 2 glucose molecules are called the maltose, glucose plus glucose, okay? So those maltose molecules, that's why you feel sweet when you chew the bread. You chew a bread, okay? It feels sweety. Why? It is because of the amylase, because you're digesting the starch. Where the first digestion of the carbohydrates happen, it happens in your mouth. Actually, it starts, it's not fully digestion, but it's partially digested in your mouth, the carbohydrate, partially digested in your mouth. Okay, so saliva partially digests the carbohydrate. It now moves from the esophagus into the stomach. After that, from the esophagus, it moves to the stomach. Okay, so any questions so far? It goes to the stomach, and after that, the mouth, what the mouth does, where it all starts in the mouth, okay? Ingestion of the food starts, so we talked about it. And let's talk about the stomach. So, you know what stomach? Это желудок, okay? The pH, the nature of the stomach is 1 and 2, between 1 and 2. It's extremely acidic environment. Okay, and there are special cells which are called parietal cells which secrete the hydrochloric acid, which kill the germs, bacteria which are entered with the food or break up the food, and also they break up the food. This is the pH scale. As you can see, this is stomach acid in the pH scale of 1. Okay, pH of the battery is 0, in the lemon 2, tomato 4, vinegar 3. It's the acidity is more compared to the vinegar in the stomach. Okay, so coffee is 5, it's more acidic as well. So in the soap, it is alkaline. As you can see, 12. More than 7, it's alkaline. Less than 7, this is the indicator, it is acidic. The less the pH, the less it's acidic. The more the pH, the more it is alkaline. Okay, so pH is 7 in water, in the clear water. Okay. So let's look at the stomach closely. So this is the stomach. This is the inner lining of the stomach. These are the muscles of the stomach. This is the inner lining of the stomach. Okay. So here you can see the sphincters, two sphincters up and down, which close. When the food is entered, it will be closed. And when it's digested, it will move. It will open. The sphincter will open and the food goes to the duodenum. Okay. This is the layer of the stomach. Let's look closer to this layer. What's inside? What's inside? So inside we have special gastric glands. Inside, when we look deeper, we can see under the microscope the gastric glands. Okay, and there are a lot of cells. Those cells are epithelial cells. Okay, on the surface you can see the epithelial cells. When you go deeper, you can see those reddish cells. Those reddish cells, red in color, they are mucus cells which secrete the mucus to the surface, inner surface of the stomach. Okay, they secrete the mucus. Mucus means sleaze. Why you need the mucus? Because the stomach is extremely acidic. It should have a protection barrier. Okay, otherwise it will digest itself. And this mucus layer will provide with mucus and it will protect this layer, okay, from the acidic damage. Without mucus cells, there will be a lot of ulcers, yazwe, okay? If the acidity increases, no mucus cells, that means you will damage your stomach, okay? So if you go deep, there are additional yellowish cells, and those cells are called parietal cells. You see, parietal cells, those cells which makes the stomach acidic. They make hydrochloric acid. Okay, those parietal cells, they make the hydrochloric acid. And as you can see, there are bright red cells. They're called chief cells. I call it chef cells. Okay, they're chief cells. Those cells, they produce the pepsinogen, which is inactive enzyme. Inactive, not active, it's inactive enzyme, this pepsinogen. How I will activate? I will not activate it. My cells, my stomach cells will activate. Which cells? Of course, parietal cells. The hydrochloric acid, which was released from the parietal cells, this hydrochloric acid will make this pepsinogen, pepsin. From this pepsinogen, they will make pepsin. Now this pepsin is active enzyme. What its function? Why I need this enzyme? I need this enzyme to break down, to digest the proteins into amino acids. Okay, so four main cells: epithelial cells, after that mucus cells, chief cells, parietal cells. So these four cells, right, those four cells, what they will do, those cells so will produce special substances. So epithelial, this is the lining. Mucus cells produce mucus. Chief cells produce pepsinogen. Parietal cells produce hydrochloric acid, which activate the pepsinogen into pepsin, and also it breaks down the food, this hydrochloric acid. Okay, so this is how the gastric glands work. Everything which was released from the stomach is called the chyme. Okay, chyme. So this chyme is very acidic. It's going to the duodenum, but it will be neutralized later with hydrocarbon, which is released from pancreas. Okay, so the stomach is acidic. The pH is between 1 and 2. In the parietal cells, they secrete hydrochloric acid, which kill the germs and break up the food. They secrete the mucus, which protects the stomach lining from acidic hydrochloric acid. When food leaves the stomach, it releases the chyme. And also it secretes the enzymes with the gastric glands. And the pepsinogen is converted into pepsin with hydrochloric acid, which was produced by parietal cells. Okay. Any questions so far?
What is the translation of chyme?
Так, translation